symmetry. And they would say, all right, here,
Interesting.
yeah, these four patches, like were
Got
one,
it.
one, 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 and they're all the same. They're
Got
all
it.
upright. And then there was another one that was like, well, 1, 1, 3, 3, where
Yeah.
the upper pair are upright and the lower pair were turned upside down. And that's a valid, they call it a symmetry group. But there is no symmetry group that says that the upper pair are right side up and the bottom pair are turned to the left or to the right.
Yeah.
That's me thinking, well, what's to stop me? I can do that. You can't
Yep.
stop me.
Yep.
And I did. And so then I realized, oh well, each of these squares can rotate 4 times, and the
Right.
mirror can rotate 4 times. So this whole website is just a matter of rotating the each individual square one at a time, and then mirror it and rotate it
Yeah.
times, and then on, on and on and on. So and it was kind of fun because blogs are in reverse order.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this blog I began on April Fool's Day 2016. April Fool's Day 2016 with 1 4M 4M 4M, and then every day I worked backwards until I got to August 25th, 2017, with the first pattern in the book.
That's really cool. Now, have you made this into a book, or is it on just the website?
No, it's just online. I mean,
Yeah.
This is 512 pages. Who's going to buy that book?
It's true. I love it. I so want to make one of these. This looks really
All
great,
right.
and I can't believe it's
Well-
paper piecing because I love paper piecing. Like, not just I'm like madly. I feel like paper piecing solves every problem in the world.
It is very handy. And this patch that I'm using for Tessellation Nation, all of my patchwork I've done uses that patch, and for the past 20 something years.
Wow.
So I think I have a Facebook photo album called Quilts and Proposed Quilts
Oh.
that shows all the quilts I've made using this one patch. I am on Facebook, by the way, Raymond
Yeah.
Houston, for people who are hearing us who may, how do I get
Right.
this guy? How do I find him?
Exactly. Raymond Houston, Facebook. Right. That's really cool. All right. So that's
So-
one part of your life. Tell me a little bit more
Yes.
about other parts of your life.
So I have the thing for Celtic knots. I
Yeah.
love the way they curve and twist and turn and bend and around in an endless loop. But I hate bias tape, and which was the method that quilters normally use to make Celtic knots. And I go, well, how can I make a Celtic knot and not use bias tape? And now, don't get me wrong, bias is perfect for what you're wanting to do. Bias has the bend and the flexibility, so you can do curves, go around a curve. The problem is you're limited in how wide you can make your bias tape, because at some point, if you're trying to do a very tight curve with very wide bias tape, you'll have to gather one side and fan out the other, and it kind of ruins the whole flat surface image.
Yeah.
So I said, well, and I wanted to make them in different sizes. So I had 2 knots in 2 different sizes. I go, what's the difference? I go, well, the only difference is the shape of the pieces that made up the knot. In fact, I had the same knot in 2 different sizes. And the only difference was the shape of the curves and the bends and whatnot. So I said,
Yeah.
well, why don't you just cut, here, use this as your template, trace it onto, Wonder Under, fuse it to fabric, and cut it out as individual pieces. And you can lay it down on fabric and do applique that way, which was great, because then I could, enlarge it as large as I wanted and go. No more bias tape. And I loved it. I was like, I could finally realize Celtic knots. Now I bought a font to draw the knots, because to actually physically draw a Celtic knot, it's a laborious process, and I said, and that's not where I wanted to go. So I bought a typeface font for my computer, and so I'm basically making these knots with a few keystrokes, which is fine.
That's
and
interesting.
Purists out there would consider it cheating, but it was the ends to a mean as far as I was concerned. So I'm making these knots and I'm cutting these pieces, but there were problems with alignment, and I said, I could fix that. And so I ended up connecting all the pieces together and changed. And what I ended up with was a not a Celtic knot, and not little pieces, but like loops, chains of loops, which I could cut apart or cut open and weave together. And so now I have a whole new way of achieving Celtic knots.
So are
with
you
woven applique?
Yeah, and they're applique. Are they needle turn applique, or are they raw edge?
The technique would work for either. I'm only saying, all right, this is how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm tracing the paths of the knot onto equal. I do it with Wonder Under, but someone else who's doing needle turn could do it with, say, freezer paper.
Yeah.
And cut the fabric wider and turn it under and press it. So the technique of weaving the knot from individual loops would work for either raw edge fusible or needle turn or anything in between, depending on what you like.
Well, it's so cool because it's at your you can go to Nacho Grandma's Quilts and see some of these. And what's interesting is it's like you see like one section is a light green and another section is a dark green, and you've kind of traced where all those loops go together, and that's one piece, and then the light green is another piece. And then I guess you must cut one little bit of it so that you can interweave them. Is that right? And then it kind of goes underneath.
You're looking at the pinks and the greens. This is what I did for Christmas. I was doing these Celtic knot Christmas trees.
Uh-huh.
So in this first picture, you had the light pink and the dark red, and basically I had photocopied on pink and red construction paper this knot, and then cut out the shapes. So you see the little black lines around the sides and across those are printing, the printing.
Yeah.
But where the black lines cross the path indicate where the other path is going to cross over it, and that's where I can cut them apart to weave them together.
I love it. That's really, really clever. That's so cool.
And then after that, I have some other like little lessons, little plans for let's weave a Celtic knot, showing some of the different. And so this pretty much shows the technique that I'll be using in my book.
In your new book, the one. Are you writing that one now? Or is it out?
Well, I'm finishing it. I'm
very cool.
It's because the knots are basically just the ends. You have ends and you have the stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, I have like 6 different styles of knot ends and 5 different types of fillers that go in between, and it's a set of interchangeable templates that let you make simple Celtic knot bands, a straight line.
Your brain. I have to interrupt you. Your brain is so it's so cool. Like, how do you think of these things? The idea that you keep seeing patterns, like the way you look at patterns and think of patterns, is really interesting. This is so interesting. Even just the way you're talking about I'm starting to see things differently because I'm looking at this stuff. Like, I wouldn't have seen them without, the way you're pulling them apart and you can see the different aspects of it. It's really interesting. It's such a different way of thinking.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me out of
Magic.
the box.
You're magic. You're like a magician. You've got all these tricks. I love it.
Well, I'm looking at things and I say, well, we could do this, but we could do this easier, yes. And so I
Right.
just look for ways to change things. And that's this thing with the Celtic knot blew me away. It was like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun. But a lot of what I do is something that anyone could do. And all I want to do is to say, all right, here, I can show you how to do it and then run with it. So the book I'm writing has the templates, and I describe the process of transferring this individual loops to fabric, and describe the process of weaving it. But there's no project.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm saying, here, make a tablecloth, make the
Right.
table runner,
You're
whatever.
just teaching a technique.
No.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what to do, and you do it.
Yeah. You've got one that's about reverse applique. That looks really interesting too.
Reverse applique is a technique where the design is drawn on the back of your fabric, and you're kind of stitching fabric to the back of your piece.
Yeah.
And on the front of the piece, along those stitching lines, you're cutting open windows so you can see the fabric underneath. And then you have to go around and like zigzag the raw edges.
Right. That looks really cool too.
And it's another one of those laborious sort of things. And when you're turning, like when you cut open these windows, there you can say zigzag the raw edge or needle turn, so you have a cleaner finished edge.
And
I only did a couple of those.
What do you like? Which is your preferred method? Needle turn or raw edge?
I like the raw edge just because, one, I'm lazy.
Yeah,
Two,
not quite. I don't think so.
I'm lazy. No. One, it's much faster than needle turn, and the fact that I can do this as fast as I can as is great, because I can whip out a knot in no time at all. Whereas if I was trying to do it by hand and needle turn it, forget that.
Yeah. Very cool. I love it. This is super awesome.
So you had asked about the name of the website, Nacho Grandma's
Yes,
Quilt.
tell me how did that come about?
So years ago, I had made a quilt for some friends for their retirement, and no one knew that I quilted up until then. I more or less came out of the quilting closet. And so after that, a man asked if I would make him a quilt, and I said yes. It was my first commission, and I was like, oh my! So I made this quilt, and I was going to have to get rid of it. I was going to have to give it away, and I was like, oh, I've never done that. So I hired a photographer to photograph all the quilts I'd made up to that point, because up to that point I'd been giving them to family and friends and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I collected them all back, got them all photographed, and I put them in a large binder, almost like a 3-ring binder.
Uh-huh.
And this was my Bible. And I would wander around, walk around, and I'd say I'd go to a bar. And someone goes, say, what do you do? And I go, oh, I could say, I'm a paralegal. And people would yawn in my face. I go, I'm a quilter. And they go, oh, really?
Right.
And I pull out this book. And so
Very
we're having
cool.
a beer and looking through the quilts, and people are going, oh, I like this. I like this.
Right.
And a lot of people would also say, oh, quilt. My grandma quilts.
Right.
My grandma.
You're like, this
And
is
then
not your
I
grandmother's
show them mine,
quilting.
and they go, oh, but not like this. So Nacho Grandma's Quilts.
Not your grandma's quilt. I finally
crazy.
got it.
Amazing.
You're so clever. I didn't see it. It's just like your other stuff. It's like you can't see where it is, but once you see it, you know, not your grandma's quilts.
You can't
I
unsee
like it.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very clever.
I like the play of language.
Yes.
Language of play.
You definitely are playful. That's kind of what you do, right? You play with things that people don't all see. you see different things that people see. It's really interesting. It's very cool. Well, this is awesome.